This is only the second time that a U.S. president's been returned to office after being voted out. Is history repeating itself, or is this a new chapter?
Well, he has said it's a new chapter in the sense that everything that he wants to do from day one is going to turn things around. I think what I feel that for at least for this day, there are a couple of things to think about. One, and that I think are positive. One is that the transition, the power transition, occurred without civil war. There were people who, before the election, were very concerned, and that a lot of people are armed, but there was a worry about how this transition would occur. So the fact that it has occurred peacefully, I think, is a good thing. Secondly, the date of the inauguration seems to have forced the hand of the powers in the Middle East to come to a conclusion and to write this initial ceasefire, which hopefully will hold.
It was perhaps the lone moment during Trump's speech where both sides of the aisle got up and cheered.
Yes, exactly. And I think that that was something which seems to have, that the date of the fact that there was going to be this inauguration made that happen. And the fact that the former president and now the new returned president, were able to have their teams work together on this, I think was really a very good moment. The other thing, just to say a couple of the terms that Trump used in his speech, which are in my mind, positive. He did use the term that he wants to be a peacemaker. He did use the term compassion. So there are elements that one could hold on to, which can be positive going forward. Other than that, there are, of course, many things that are contested by various people, but that the notion of turning things around, the notion of actually wanting to, though at the same time it's sort of contradictory, wanting to go back to the Make America Great Again, that is the notion that there is a prior period that was golden and that it needs to be resuscitated, is somewhat contradictory with some of particularly the attitudes about immigration and sometimes the attitude, a negative attitude towards immigration. And yet the United States is a country of immigration. It has been so for the last 2 centuries. And this is something which I think we need to think about in terms of talking about the identity itself of the United States.
Cécile Coquet-Mokoko, if we talk about the identity of the United States, Donald Trump, quite early in his speech, talks about a greater, stronger, and far more exceptional America than ever before. And he used that term exceptional several times during the speech. How does that land with your French students, hearing the word about the United States that's exceptional?
I guess they very much recognize the concept of manifest destiny, which he also quoted
Explain
once.
that for our viewers.
It is a belief that is founded both on the Puritan origins of the country, which is that they're going to build together. They're the chosen people of God, the new Israel and the new Jerusalem, and they have been chosen by God to provide to the rest of the world a model of a perfect Christian society, which will elicit the admiration of the rest of the world and will inspire other leaders to build similar kinds of societies. And this has evolved with the country because of course, not all Americans are Puritans, and other communities also built the country. But along with the idea that the American Republic was an experiment in democracy, the phrase is George Washington's, there was this idea that the separation of powers, which Trump is directly threatening, is a model of democracy that is the most perfect one. I've met several Americans who actually believed that democracy had been invented in the United States of America and didn't know anything about ancient Greece. But there's this notion that the rest of the world is contemplating the expansion of democracy and a model of democracy that is also spread from the United States as if it were radiating from the country to other parts of the world in order to build a free world. But in Trump's mouth, the notion of exceptionalism has very much to do with expansionism. So it
expansionism, how? Explain.
It used to be expansionism across the North American continent from sea to shining sea, so from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. And this implied not just the untamed wilderness that Trump waxed lyrical about, but it implied conquering land that was American Indian land, and also conquering Mexico. It is ironic that he's constantly mentioning invasion, while the country that invaded the other country was actually the United States, conquering Mexico down to Veracruz. They could actually have gotten the entirety of the country had they not been loath to have citizens who were a little too brown to the taste of the slaveholding members of Congress.